He walks through ashes, where roses once bloomed. Each footprint a memory, each breath a wound. A child of war, now grown to flame. With vengeance whispering his forgotten name. The wind howled through the hollowed-out shells of homes, stirring the soot where laughter once lived. The village of Diran, once full of music and morning bread, now lay in ruin. Fires no longer warmed homes here, they consumed them. Kale stood silently, cloak heavy with dust, staring at the charred remains of what used to be his mother's garden. The burnt stalk of a lavender plant poked out of the blackened soil. He knelt, brushed the ash away, and held a withered stem like a sacred relic. He remembered her voice, gentle but firm. Kindness, Kale. Even in darkness, we choose to be the light. That voice was silenced 3 years ago when the Iron Legion came. Led by the brutal commander Rovak, the Legion had tormented the outer villages, burning crops, killing dissenters, and leaving nothing but fear behind. They called it a pacification campaign. Kale called it oppression. The world called it a tragedy. And still, no one stopped it. So Kale made himself a weapon. Not out of hatred alone, but out of duty, to protect those who still had breath. To make sure the next generation didn't learn war by watching their homes turn to smoke. His mission was simple: find Rovak, and end him. The forest surrounding Rovak's stronghold was thick, a twisting sea of shadows. Kale moved like a ghost, silent, focused. He knew every patrol route, every weak spot. Tonight, he would strike. No more hesitation. But fate had other plans. As he crept past the outer wall, slipping through a crack in the stone, he heard a faint sound, a cough. Then a whimper. At first, he ignored it. There were always prisoners here. But this was different. It was high-pitched. Fragile. Not the sound of a soldier. Drawn by curiosity, or perhaps conscience, Kale followed the sound to a narrow stone stairway that led underground. He lit a small lantern and descended. At the bottom, behind rusted bars, he saw a boy. Pale, thin, eyes sunken but alert. No older than 8. His clothes were torn, and one side of his face bore a bruise that had yellowed with time. He flinched at the light. Kale spoke softly. "Who are you?" The boy backed away. "Don't hurt me." "I won't." "What's your name?" "Leor." "And what are you doing in here?" The boy swallowed hard. "He locked me away. Said I was weak." "Who did?" "My father. Commander Rovak." Kale's blood turned to ice. He had imagined Rovak as a monster to be slain. But monsters didn't imprison their own children, or did they? This boy, this trembling child, was the son of the man Kale had trained his entire life to destroy. His hands tightened into fists. Every bone in his body told him to leave. This wasn't part of the mission. But his mother's voice echoed again, even in darkness. Kale stared into Leor's frightened eyes. And chose not to walk away. Kale returned for Leor that night. He disabled the locks, hoisted the child onto his back, and disappeared into the trees. It took them 2 days to reach a safe place, a forest hut abandoned by an old healer. During that journey, something began to change. At first, Leor was silent. Suspicious. Distant. But he noticed the way Kale set extra blankets near the fire. The way he stirred soup carefully, even tasting it first to be sure it wouldn't harm the boy. Leor asked on the second night, "Why are you helping me?" "I'm his son." Kale looked at him. "You're not your father. But everyone hates him." "I don't help you because of who your father is. I help you because you needed help." That night, Leor cried softly when he thought Kale was asleep. And Kale didn't interrupt. He remembered what it was like to cry alone. In the days that followed, Leor told his story. How his mother died when he was 4. How Rovak saw kindness as weakness, and emotion as failure. How Lior was hidden away whenever Rovak met with officers, an inconvenient reminder of humanity. Lior had been locked in a dungeon for weeks before Kale found him. Left to fade. Do you hate him? Lior asked one morning. Kale stared into the fire. I did. But now? I don't know. Kale realized that for the first time in years, he didn't just feel anger. He felt confusion. Doubt. And something even more dangerous, hope. Kale knew he couldn't hide forever. Lior needed more than soup and stories. He needed a future. And so did Kale's people. So he returned. This time, he brought the boy. He didn't sneak through shadows. He walked through the front gate during the changing of the guard. The soldiers were too stunned to react. Kale moved like fire, swift, undeniable. He left a trail of unconscious guards but spared every life he could. He reached the top chamber, the war room, where Rovak stood in black armor, eyes like frozen steel. The commander was older than Kale remembered, his face weathered not just by battle, but by bitterness. They stared at each other. I wondered when the peasant would grow fangs, Rovak sneered. You've stolen too many voices, Kale said. It ends now. He drew his sword. Rovak reached for his axe. But then, Lior stepped into the room. Father, he whispered. Rovak froze. Lior? His voice cracked, not with love, but with disbelief. You're alive. You locked me away. Rovak's face twitched. For a moment, it looked like shame. But it vanished. You should have stayed there, he growled. The world is no place for weakness. Kale stepped forward. That's where you're wrong. They fought. Steel clashed against steel. Years of hatred surged through Kale's limbs. Blow after blow. Sparks flew. Blood spilled. Until Rovak was on his knees, gasping, beaten. Kale raised his sword to finish it. But then, Lior ran forward and held Kale's leg. Please, don't. Don't become him. Kale's breath caught. He saw not a monster before him, but a broken man. One whose cruelty came from fear. From loss. From the belief that love made him vulnerable. He saw the boy behind the monster. The boy who was never allowed to cry. And Kale lowered his sword. I won't kill you, he said. But you will never hurt another soul again. Rovak said nothing. Months passed. The Iron Legion disbanded after Rovak was taken to stand trial by an international council. Many officers turned away from violence once the head of the snake was gone. Some even stayed to rebuild. Kale returned to Diran. With him was Lior, now stronger, his face brighter. The village greeted them not with fear, but with open arms. They had heard what Kale had done, not just the battle, but the mercy. The decision that changed everything. Lior grew up helping the people heal. He planted lavender again in the ashes of Kale's mother's garden. He became a symbol not of the enemy, but of what love could resurrect. Kale no longer dreamed of fire. He dreamed of harvests. Of music. Of children laughing again. And sometimes, when the wind was just right, he thought he heard his mother's voice. Even in darkness, we choose to be the light. In a world where hate often begs for vengeance. The bravest act is choosing love. He could have ended a life. Instead, he saved a future. And that changed everything.